It's cranberry season, and what better way to celebrate cranberry season than starting out by making a gallon of cranberry wine? Hi, I'm Charles, and welcome to DIY Fermentation, your site for doing fermentation on a shoestring budget. Now, no matter what time of the year you decide you want to make use of cranberry wine, whether or not you use fresh cranberries, or if you use frozen cranberries, or even if you use cranberries out of a bottle, any time is a good time to make cranberry wine. To make this wine, we'll be using the following ingredients. We're using up to 2 pounds of cranberries, either fresh or frozen. We're going to be using up to 3 pounds, or just under 7 cups of sugar. We're not all just going to dump that sugar in. We're going to use our hydrometer to make sure we're putting in the correct amount as we go along. Anywhere from 1/2 to 1 pound of raisins. I'm using this time around Red Star Premier Classique wine yeast because it's good for red wines, and also it's got about a 15% ABV approximate level. Using 1 teabag as our tannin substitute. We'll be boiling that up later. The juice of half a lemon, which is going to be our acid blend substitute. Straining bag, of course, optional. It's great if you got them. Don't worry about it if you don't. We're going to be using up to 1 gallon of water, or 4 liters of water, depending on where you live. We need something to do primary fermentation in, preferably something with a wide mouth opening. If you've seen my videos, you know that this particular fermenter does come with a built-in airlock, so you don't have to worry about pressure building up there. We're going to be using this time peptic enzyme. Now again, if you don't have it, don't worry about it. That's going to be used to help break down the pectin in the fruit so that it won't be as hazy, and it will help it clear up just a little bit faster. We need something to do secondary fermentation in, because after a week of it being in here, we're going to transfer our wine into our secondary fermenter for the long haul. It's going to require an airlock with stopper. We're going to be using a hydrometer to determine the amount of alcohol, potential alcohol, and the amount of sugar we should be adding to get to that potential level of alcohol. And of course, everything has been sanitized using Star Sans. And that's what I'm going to be using to make this wine. All right, first thing we want to do is we want to rinse these berries off. Pulling out any remaining stems or leaves that might be in the berries. You also want to give the berries a good once over to make sure that you're going to be making your wine with good berries and not the occasional berries that might be past their prime. I've already gone through this listing through these berries once, and I don't need to do it again. I just need to rinse them off. We don't want to pulverize the berries. We don't want to mince them up. We just want a good chop. Start with a couple of handfuls. Yeah, one more. Put the top on. I mean, you take that's going to take a while. You can just go ahead and turn it on. And that is what we're looking for. Right? So I'm going to go ahead and put these in the straining bags, and I'm going to grab another few handfuls, and let's go ahead and see if I can wrap this up. All right, that's that. Next thing I want to do is I want to transfer these into a large pot. And let's start the boiling process to go ahead and start sanitizing these berries. Now that we're about to slave away over a hot stove, first thing we want to do is that we want to drop in our tea bag. And let's pour off enough, about a quarter of a cup, maybe half a cup, to get our tannin mixture ready. Next thing I want to do is I want to pour off about 2 cups of sugar. I'm sorry, let me rephrase that. 2 cups of water to make room for at least some of the sugar that we're going to be putting in here. And as for the remainder, I'm going to go ahead and pour that in to our pot. And put the cover on that. Turn the heat on to simmer. Turn on the front burner. Put a cover on that. And let's wait for that to come to a boil before we drop in our berries. Okay, now that our water has come to a boil, I have decided that since we're putting in so much sugar, I'm going to take out another cup of water. That's about 2.5 cups that I've taken out, just to make a little bit more room for all that sugar we're going to put in later on. Now I want to go ahead and put in our cranberries, chopped cranberries. And I want to turn the heat back up and let's let that come to a boil. We're going to let it boil for a good 5 minutes. And the reason for that, again, is to make sure that we kill off any wild yeast that might have been on the berries or any remaining bacteria. We want to make sure that we do a good job of sterilizing the fruit. Since we're not using Camden tablets, this is a natural winemaking channel. This is a very good alternative. Okay, it's been boiling for a good 5 minutes now. We're going to do a couple of things. First thing we want to do is turn off the heat. The next thing we want to do is go ahead and add our tea for tannin mixture. And now we want to let this come down to a nice warm temperature so that we can add our sugar and begin to incorporate that. Don't want it cold, at least not yet. Just warm enough where adding the sugar should be more of an easy process of getting that dissolved. So with that in mind, make sure the heat's off. Just going to go ahead and cover this up. And let's give it about an hour and a half-ish. And we'll go ahead and check the temperature and then we'll go ahead and add our sugar. Okay, it's been about an hour or so. And our cranberry juice mixture is still pretty warm, but that's okay. I've had the opportunity to rinse out my pan with some star sands because I need that temporarily to hold our bags of cranberries. I want to just get them out the way for the moment so I can stir in our sugar. There. Now the recipe does call for a total of 6 3/4 cup of sugar, but I'm a little leery of dumping that much sugar in there, so I'm going to start with 4 cups. And then take a hydrometer reading once this temperature has come down to a reasonable level. Alright, that should do it. I'm going to go ahead and put our bags back in without making a mess, hopefully. I mean, they're still hot enough where you can still see a little wisp of steam coming up, but hey, like I said, it's okay. Put the cover back on. And now we can wait for it to come down to room temperature, which should be probably not for another hour and a half. So it's going to be a while. I mean, yeah, I could run it under cold water or put ice cubes in, make an ice cube bath and chill it down quicker. But there's no great rush because it's only 8 o'clock in the evening. So I've got time to go ahead and let it come down to temperature. Go ahead and put in our peptic enzyme and then let it sit overnight. Pick it up in the morning. You know what? Since our cranberry juice mixture is still pretty warm, now would be a good time to go ahead and add our raisins. I'm not going to chop them up this time. We're just going to go ahead and add them to the mix. I'm going to use about half a bag. And let's go ahead and get those in there. Cover that up and let it continue to cool down. It's still pretty warm. I mean, it's not like hot, but it's still pretty warm. So it'll be a while. I poured off enough of the cranberry juice and let it cool down separately so I can take an initial gravity reading. And my initial gravity reading came in at 1.060. I'm going to go ahead and add another cup of sugar and let that cool down and take another reading. And this time the reading came in at, now that the temperature in our wine to be has come down to a good temperature, I'm going to go ahead and add 3/4 of a teaspoon of our peptic enzyme. Go ahead and begin the process of breaking down the pectin that's naturally occurring in the fruit. Sprinkle that around a little bit. And let's just give that a little stir. And now all we have to do is just give it time to work. Next 12 hours should do it. All right, our 12 hours are up, and it's now time to go ahead and transfer our cranberry juice into our fermenter. We're going to take these bags out. Yeah, no matter how hard you try, it always ends up being just a little bit messy putting these bags in. All right, now the tricky part. as well get those raisins in there too. They can do some more good. Now, yeah, of course, I could have put the raisins in the straining bags when I was putting the cranberries in there, but it totally slipped my mind. So, there's that. Let's go ahead and slice up our half a lemon. And let's go ahead and squeeze that. And once again, the lemon is acting as our acid blend. Let's go ahead and put that in our fermenter. Now, once again, we're only adding 1/4 teaspoon of yeast. And we just want to like sprinkle that on around. And only because we've got yeast sitting on top of these straining bags, I'm just going to go ahead and give that a little swirl. Put our cap back on. And we're going to go ahead and put this on the counter. Now, it's always helpful to label your batches of wine. This batch is cranberry. We started it on this date, and our original gravity reading was 1.100. Help us be mindful of that when we're taking subsequent hydrometer readings so we can determine when fermentation is finally stopped and we can start the long process of bulk aging. You'll find any adjustments that I've made to the recipe down in the comment section below, along with any Amazon affiliate links for any of the items that you might see here that you might want to check out. Until then, see you in my next video.